Can Jojo from JoJo's Bizarre Adventure take on the entities in the internet genre of analog horror? Well, let's look at Jojo and see how capable and bizarre he is from his adventures and compare him to the horrors from the analog horrors. So, which Jojo is going to be compared to the analog horrors? Well, let's look at Johnny Joestar from Part 7, Steel Ball Run, as this Jojo part is going to be released later in 2026. From this manga, Johnny is the main protagonist of Steel Ball Run, and he goes on a horse race from one end of the US to the other. Now, since the story is very bizarre and worth the read, I won't talk too much about it, instead only really focusing on Johnny and his capabilities. So to start with the bizarre capabilities, Johnny for most of the story rides around on his horse, Slow Dancer, as this part takes place in a horse race and he is also disabled, being unable to move on his own throughout most of the story. His main ability in the series is spin, rotation even, and he uses that spin to shoot his fingernails at targets and ops. At first, this is all Johnny can really do, but when his stand Tusk goes stage 2, Johnny gets the golden spin, which further empowers the fingernail bullets to have homing capabilities and deal more damage. Later on, Tusk goes into stage 3, allowing for Johnny to have wormhole abilities from his fingernail bullets and the spin, which he can use on himself and others to move around and attack at various different angles. In the later parts of the story, Tusk gets to his final stage, stage 4, which is awakened from bizarre means, and now Johnny can use infinite rotational energy to hit a target even if they are protected with dimensional walls and the like. Stage 4 Tusk can also bypass any defense and attack a target directly, in which they will be immobilized and will be attacked by the super spin forever and in all dimensions and universes, from just infinite rotational energy. The last bizarre evolution for Johnny is that after the race, he is relieved of his handy-capable status and can walk again, thanks to the powers of rotational energy. No, I'm not joking. Other notes about Johnny Joestar is that even though he and his stand are not too physically capable when compared to other JoJos, he still has a very fast relativistic reaction speed and perception. His fingernail bullets are also capable of destroying large parts of boulders at the start of the manga, and he is able to see incorporeal beings, as stands count in that category along with spirits. And in JoJo, stands can attack other stands and spirits, so he is capable of attacking ethereal beings. So now let's move on from the bizarre JoJo stuff to the horror stuff from the analog horrors. But before analyzing the entities and comparing them to Bizarre Adventures JoJo Part 7, subscribe. Yeah, most viewers are not subscribed, so please do that, and also like the video, comment your thoughts, and if this video does well enough, then I may examine the other Bizarre JoJos for other videos. In this analog horror, we follow the story of a restaurant named of Bond's Burgers and its founders Jack Walten and Felix Kranken. Through the story, many unfortunate mishaps happen and people get stuffed into animatronics, and then spirits control the animatronics and other shenanigans ensue. But how strong are the titular characters of the series? Well, there are the spirits and the animatronics. The spirits are trapped in the robots and only really control them. They are not too resilient since if not tethered to a vessel, they will eventually fade. Now, the animatronics are different. They are quite strong, being capable of squishing people, bones, flesh and all, into animatronic suits. They move about as fast as people, but are able to attack far faster than what a normal person can react to. Since they are robots, they are quite durable, but what differentiates them from normal robots is that even if you cut off their wiring and detach the head from the body, they still remain operational. So how does Johnny Joestar from the Bizarre Adventures bizarrely compare to the Walten Files? Well, let's see. In terms of abilities and stats, Johnny comes out on top for a few reasons. First is that his fingernail bullets are very destructive, even at the beginning of the manga. Another reason is that with Slow Dancer, Johnny can maneuver around quite fast, giving him the edge in speed as well. Now, taking into consideration the super spin powers shown at the end of the manga, Johnny can easily decimate the entire animatronic body, leaving the spirits vulnerable. Since Johnny and all other stand users can also damage spirits, this makes it so Johnny can target the spirits without even needing to harm the robotic bodies, making it so Johnny clears the Walten Files easily. This next analog horror follows the story of a national park, where the park rangers deal with several different cryptids. This park has quite a few creepy critters, with them being the walker, wendigo, cave critter, and singing devil. The walker is the biggest one, being at a height range of 12 to 45 feet tall. It's a kind of spider-like creature with light-absorbing pitch-black skin, making it impossible to see at night without any special equipment. The walkers are quite physically strong, as one threw a camper inside a tent several meters away with no difficulty. Next are the wendigos. These can run up to 45 miles per hour and are resistant to gunfire, as when a battalion of armed fellas went out to hunt it, they failed and the wendigo got away easily. It's not as strong as a walker, but it's much better at moving around and fighting, as it's smaller and more nimble. Then there is the elusive cave critter, which only really lives in caves. It's strong enough to climb and move around easily on walls, and it's got a bite that inflicts you with cave critter disease. If bit, you either turn into one, kick the bucket, or get away with no issue. Lastly, you got the singing devils. These are birds that change appearance depending on if it's night or day. By night, they are black with red eyes. During the day, they are like bird corpses, and these attack by bringing a fog around their target. After this and some stalking, they then screech and land on you to mind control you and eat you or something. So how does Johnny Bizarre Joestar bizarrely do against the Woodlands National Park cryptids? Well, let's begin with the wendigos. The wendigos move faster than most horses, and may even be able to keep up with Slow Dancer. Now this would allow it to keep up with Johnny, but could it take a fingernail blast? Well, Johnny's fingernail shots from the beginning of the manga would hurt quite a lot, as they can destroy boulders, and with enough shots, could possibly take down the wendigo, if he's able to actually hit it. With later tusk stages, the fight becomes quite easy, as the spinning fingernails would decimate the wendigo and would track it down, making it so he doesn't really even have to aim. Next is the cave critter, which would also perish to Johnny and his spin powers and fingernails. But what happens if he gets bit? Would that do anything? Well, because of the bizarre and battle-intelligent nature of the Jojos, Johnny would be able to figure out a way to prevent the cave critter transformation, as he might try and use some relic from his verse, like the Holy Corpse fragment, for aid. As for the 45 percentile chance where you just keel over, Johnny might have trouble with that. But now, would he actually be bit? Well, it would be unlikely, as Johnny has very fast reaction speed and could evade any bites somewhat easily. Next up is the singing devils. Now, when the fog rolls up from being around the singing devils, Johnny may question if an enemy stand user is nearby, but it's only a little bird that will then screech at him and then try to dive bomb attack him and try to mind control him. But Johnny would turn around, look at the fast approaching bird, and then subsequently shoot it down. Now, if the bird does somehow get to the Joestar, then it would still lose, as Johnny can resist some mind control, and he also has his stand tusk to help him out just in case he does somehow get taken over. Now, for arguably the strongest cryptid type, the walker, during the day the walker would be easily spotted and probably get the drive-by treatment from Johnny and his horse. During the night, the walker could sneak up on Johnny, as without a thermal cam there's no way to spot it. And since it's very stealthy and good at ambushing and makes no noise, Johnny would get hit, but he would survive the attack even from the bigger walkers. After this, Johnny will just rapid fire several fingernails, which would take down the walker. So Johnny Joestar bizarrely wins against Woodlands National Park cryptids. Next analog horror is the Backrooms analog horror, where a company is researching and doing things in the complex. The lore from this Backrooms-inspired series is vastly different than the Wikidot and other Backrooms lore from the wikis. In this complex, the layout is an ever-expanding place where many distinctly shaped rooms are all interconnected. There are a few entities, all of which have very little info tied to them, that go around, explore the place, and do a bunch of shenanigans. The aggressive entities present in this series are the lifeforms and still life. The still life is essentially a replicated person or thing by the Backrooms. This happens when people fall into the complex, as the backrooms tries to replicate them in a weird way, which then creates a disfigured aggressive creature that stands still until someone gets too close, in which it will sprint at them to attack them. The life form is just a bunch of bacteria that the complex replicated and changed. It takes a few different forms, as it can be a mobile hostile creature, or it just spreads around in a nest kind of like mold. The walking version of the aggressive life form is tasked with hunting in order to feed the bacteria, so it's quite aggressive and runs around a lot and does a bunch of things to do that. So, can Johnny Joestar bizarrely survive or bizarrely beat the complex and its horrors? Well, let's first begin with the entities. Both would not be able to keep up with the horse and would get shot down with fingernails, so Johnny with just stage 1 tusk clears. The complex itself would be a bit problematic, as the null zones are few and far between, so Johnny might be stuck for a little while. Or what might happen is that he may use his wormhole abilities and infinite rotation to somehow do something that would create or lead to a way out, so the complex wouldn't really be much of an issue for good old Johnny Bizarre Joestar. This analog horror has mysterious entities that may or may not be tied to the moon. These entities interfere with the local 58 broadcasts, and they try to misinform people in order to put them in danger. The main entity is the moon, or the thing on the moon. This entity can manipulate technology and minds, along with other anomalous things which result from looking at the moon and other stuff. The other entities seen in a few of the tapes are the weird GPS affecting creature and the two-faced alien creature. This GPS creature has been shown to be able to affect technology and can partially keep up with cars, as it chased the guy in his car after he turned around in the video. Eventually, it caught up to the car and either destroyed it or the car crashed. Next up is the two-faced alien, which does not do much, but just shows up and hunts people. So how does Bizarre Johnny Finger-Blasting Joestar stack up to the horrors of Local 58? Well, for the entities on Earth, Johnny with later stages of Tusk could easily win against either entity because of infinite spin, which again can attack you infinitely and through infinite dimensions. Johnny from the earlier manga chapters would have a bit more trouble though. He would still win, as these creatures have not been shown to be strong enough to survive being shot. Now, the moon is where it gets interesting. The moon entity can reshape the moon and create a bunch of weird shapes, making it quite powerful. Johnny would have a hard time shooting at the moon, as it's quite far away and sands only have a few meters to maybe a couple kilometers of range. Now, the infinite rotational energy does bypass this somewhat, but the infinite rotational energy mostly applies to when the bullet hits the target rather than the distance it travels. This makes it so Johnny would have to really master the spin to maybe hit the moon, as it's a few 100 kilometers away in space. If Johnny can hit the moon, then he can win. If not, then he has to do his best to survive against the moon, as it does have many anomalous properties which can affect Johnny if he's not careful. So, can Johnny Joestar from Steel Ball Run beat or survive analog horror? Well, for most entities, both physical and ethereal, he is able to win, as his fingernail bullets with the infinite spin can greatly damage them, and few are able to evade these bullets. For any analog horror viruses, Johnny would have trouble, as some of the viruses are able to infect even very resilient people. This makes it so Johnny would struggle if infected with some of the viruses, and he may potentially fall to them if he can't gain access to any relics from the Jojo verse. Now, for the much stronger analog horror entities, Johnny can hurt them, but since they are quite strong and even massive, they will still be able to beat Johnny, as he himself is not as durable as he is powerful. So, Johnny would have to quickly win, or else he would lose. So, Johnny Bizarre Joestar somewhat survives analog horror.